I call this God in Birds. The reading from the psalm this morning is largely about God comforting those who need extra support. A father to the fatherless, one who gives abundant showers, one who thunders with a mighty voice, a sanctuary. From Peter, we hear about support through trials and how God can restore. We hear about a lion looking for someone to devour, and how many people around the world are undergoing suffering, but how over time God will restore them. I have held these readings in my heart this week as I listen to my life. I invite you to listen for some of these themes in the story I'm going to tell you. This story is about baby birds. This week, I've been feeling connected to baby birds. As I began to write the first draft of this reflection, my cat was on the deck, devouring one of the neighborhood young birds who happened to venture out there. I saw Ginger, my indoor cat, with a menacing look on her face, her mouth full of fluffy feathers and resigned yellow feet, when I came upstairs from retrieving the paper to begin my first draft on. She was pacing outside the door, hoping to come in and share the bird with me, or at least be praised for a job well done. I told her she'd have to deal with that bird on the deck by herself. Later, all I found were 2 pin feathers. I felt bad for the bird. I know that Ginger catches them well. That's part of why she's a house cat. That, and she thinks cars might be friendly to her when she stands in the middle of the road. And the dogs are there to tease. She's allowed in the house, in the backyard on a leash, and on the enclosed deck. The bird was naive enough to venture onto the deck. On the other hand, this bird is part of the invasive variety of birds who have come back year after year for decades to my neighbor's house to nest and raise their babies. They're a nuisance and considered pests. So is my cat, who I love. Lately, the cat is not allowed downstairs. For my daughter's birthday, we bought 3 baby chicks from Shelley of Red Damsel Farms. Shelley was given a box of baby chicks unexpectedly and knew we were looking. We drove up to Shelley's farm and picked out a box of 3 4-day-old bundles of fuzz. We brought them home in a box and put them in a guinea pig cage that my kids had carefully modified and under a heat lamp. At this point, they were in Rebecca's room. Within a few days, they were escaping the guinea pig cage. After a week or 2, Shelley told us that keeping them in a bedroom was a bad idea. As their feathers come in, they create a lot of dander. Despite my daughter's protests, we knew we had to move them. The only enclosed space that could be kept safe from the cat was the downstairs bathroom. The bathroom has a fan, it has a light. We have lowered the shower curtain rod to hold the heat lamp. Their feathers are mostly in now, so the heat lamp is only on at night. The fan and room light are on during the day. Shelley was right. They make a lot of mess. We need to change their bedding every couple of days because they invariably knock over their water. They make constant deposits, and they are dusty. Yesterday, Andrew built a playpen for them to scamper around in the yard, and while keeping them separate from the older chicken we've had for a few years. The older chicken has been on her own since October 2018, when her sister had to be put down. We're hoping that she will enjoy the company of the new girls when they're big enough to be peers. So far, her reaction to them has been to look all along the perimeter of her fence for an escape route. There isn't one. Meanwhile, the baby chicks are playing like early elementary school kids, vying for the position of top bird. All the things we say to one another about chickens are true. Pecking order. She rules the roost. Baby chicks are cute and fuzzy. Older chicks are fierce and sternly committed to a strict social order. We've kept the older chicken away from the younger chicks, where they can see one another but not touch, on purpose. Now at 4 weeks old, the fluffy things have changed. Now they are each about the size of a crow, but the older chicken could still get them and tear them apart. Not sure how likely that is, now that she's looking for a way to get out now that the kids have shown up. The young chicks sound quite a bit like robins. Talking about baby birds, Rebecca and I went for a walk the other night to have some time to cool off. We were noticing gardens and trees and the sky, an acquaintance with her dogs, and then all of a sudden, Rebecca said, "Oh my God, it's alive." I stopped in my tracks and looked for where her attention had been captured. There was a fluffy baby robin on the edge of the road. I could tell from the pudgy body and trusting face it had been well fed and loved by its robin parents. But we were worried because it wasn't moving. We figured it had fallen out of its nest in a tree, but we couldn't see the nest through the leafy branches. The parent birds were yelling something at us and at the baby bird. As a parent, I figured they were in distress for the baby bird and possibly about our presence. We also didn't want to unnecessarily separate the baby bird from its parents. Still, we figured we should do something. After a few minutes reflecting, we decided we needed more info, but neither of us had a cell phone, so someone had to go home. We decided I would go home. I could drive the car if needed. I could get a box. I knew about Wild Art, the clinic run by the SPCA who helps wild animals. We knew that the vet hospital near Mayfair Mall takes animals in distress for Wild Art to pick up. We didn't want a cat to eat the baby bird, so we decided that Rebecca would stay and chase away any cats who might be interested in eating it while I went home. I went home and told Andrew and Colm about what we found. Within moments, Colm was on a scooter demanding to know the location of the baby bird, because even though it was almost bedtime, he was going to see what he could do to help. I told him to wait until I had info about what to do. Andrew went downstairs to get a box in case that was needed. It took me a while to get the number for the animal hospital, and when I did, the person who answered the phone gave me instructions on how to bring the bird in. But I wanted to figure out if that was actually needed in the first place. She put me on hold and asked around at the clinic. Here is now what I know about baby birds, about baby robins in particular. When the robin parents think the baby is old enough to learn how to fly, they send it out of the nest. Mom and dad birds send this pudgy, trusting thing from the comfort of their regular, cozy, fed by mom and dad, sit around and watch the world go by nest and see what they do and yell at them, coach them from the nearby tree. I told Colm where the bird was, what the learning was, and he was off like a shot. I got in the car and drove to where I left Rebecca. I found Rebecca with Colm. They had just explained to the neighbor about what was going on. The neighbor had seen my kid alone in the street, left there by a parent in the middle of a pandemic. By now, we understood that the kindest thing we could do for the bird, and now there were 2 birds from that nest, trying to figure out what to do, was to leave them and let them figure out what to do. When I replay this story in my mind, while I hold the readings in my heart, I find myself asking, who is God in this story? Is God the oblivious baby bird sitting on the road? Is God the parent birds coaching from a nearby tree? Is God the kid watching to make sure that the cat doesn't eat the baby? Is God the mother going to get info about how to help the baby bird? Is God the brother racing off on his scooter to see and to help? Is God the father going to get a box? Is God the person at the animal hospital giving the info about what to do? Is God the curious neighbor? Is God the baby chickens, my older chicken, my hungry cat, the unfortunate bird who became a meal the other day? Is God the farmer who lined us up with the baby chicks? I think yes. God is in each of these characters and more. God is in birds for me this week. Tweet. Shelly at Red Damsel Farms asked me to tell you that she has more baby chickens who need homes and will again next week. May you find God in small places this week. May you find God singing like a robin in your own heart.